Occurred, the 11th of November 1994, 22 hours 20 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Plymouth, in, USA. Shape: diamond. Duration: 1.5 minutes. No of observers. 4 characteristics: lights on object, emitted other objects. My friend and I were walking to my house when we stopped to look at the moon. We started looking at stars and we saw a little ship come out of a large one, and one flew overhead and hovered while we got his mom and brother. My friend and I were walking to my house. He lives down the street, when we stopped to look at the moon. My friend was at the time around 11 and I was 13. We had been friends since he was in kindergarten. I was starting my fascination with outer space around that age. We started looking at stars and naming them. Then he spotted one above and to the left of the North Star that was somewhat bright, but very far away like a plane would be. This star was keeping its position in the sky, but what was weird about it was that another star with a much lower magnitude seemed to come out of the larger one and travel about 4 degrees across the sky and stay there for about 5 minutes. After that, it simply went back to where it came from. I never considered that part of the sighting because it was too far away to tell what it really was. What I consider the sighting is explained below. After seeing the strange star-like pinpoints across the sky, we began looking for more to see if it was an isolated phenomenon. We continued to walk and look when straight down the road between the rows of suburban houses and over the top of the circle's trees, the circle being at the end of the short road we live on, was a very bright light. My guess being with about -5 or -6 was just sitting there. At first it didn't click in my head because there's usually red lights in that part of the sky anyway because of power lines in the field. Then I realized the light wasn't red, it was a white light. We were now halfway down the road, standing in awe at the 3-way intersection, and stared at the light. I looked to my friend and asked him what he thought it was, and when I looked back I saw that it doubled in size. It was coming at us, straight down the road. We thought it was a helicopter, so we ran back to his house like we were fugitives. We always pretended like that. When we got to his driveway, it was almost directly overhead and still no sound was coming from it. I took charge and told him to get his mom. I knew without an older witness that no one would believe us. He ran inside yelling and his little brother came running out, followed by my friend and his mom. Now the diamond-shaped craft was directly overhead and hovering like a copter. The rest of the description gets blurry now. I believe there were 4 lights on bottom, the 2 sides being white or dull yellow, the front and back being red. As far as I can remember, it was only there for us to regret not having a camera. Then it tilted up at about a 30 to 35 degree angle and zipped away above his house pretty quickly. The only way I remember this many details about it is because I immediately wrote it all down in my journal when I got home because I didn't want to take the chance of forgetting it, or having warped memories about it later.
Occurred, the 12th of August 2007, 1 hour 45 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Plymouth, in, USA. Shape: formation. Duration: 30 seconds. No of observers. One as big as a large house with 2-car garage attached and kinda shaped like that 500 feet over my head. Something I am having a hard time explaining flew right over my head what seemed like no more than 500 feet up at Washington Elementary School at about 1:45 a.m. As big as a large house with 2-car garage attached and kinda shaped like that. At about 1 a.m. I went up to the darkened schoolyard alone to see if maybe I could catch a few early annual Perseid meteors shooting across from the north sky. I was disappointed to notice the installation of new security lights in my favorite urban astronomy field, which actually do nothing but cause light pollution and burn energy. So I decided to lay in the middle of some playground equipment where the shadows would cover me and give me a much darker if slightly more limited view of the sky. I was laying with my head to the west and feet to the east so the meteors would appear to my left and fly to the right. It was a slow show, but a pretty clear night. I could barely make out the faint glow of the Milky Way. I saw about 5 bright Perseids over the course of approximately 45 minutes, when something enormous and low appeared directly in front and above me to the east-southeast. When I say enormous, I mean it seemed like a large house with 2-car attached garage was flying over my head. As soon as my eyes flicked to it, it was directly over me. Although it was dark with no moon, the craft was darker, like it absorbed light. It's hard to explain the shape. Like 5 or 6 or 7 black square boxes connected oddly, sort of like a 3-box rectangle with 2 other box protrusions on either side, one front and one back, with a large orange circle in the center of each square 2/3 RDS the square size. The orange glow did not seem to be lights, but more like very hot orange glowing metal. There were no running lights whatsoever. I got the impression it was much larger than I could actually see, and was not supposed to be able to see it, but the orange heat glow lit up just a small portion of the bottom of the craft, which is all I really saw. Although the square and circles were symmetrical, the boxes seemed to be put together in an odd shape. I came home and drew it and painted it, but I can't get it to look exactly like what I saw, but you can at least get an idea. This craft did not seem aerodynamic in any way, yet it was flying super fast, Learjet fast, although flying is the wrong word. More like it moved like a water bug across the surface of water, or dragonfly-like, kinda skittering diagonally sideways. It passed directly over me and shot off west-northwest. As it passed, I flipped over on my stomach and elbows to get a better view, and disappeared over some trees that fast. The whole event lasted less than 30 seconds. Not a single sound came from it. The crickets kept on chirping. There was no wind. It was very calm. An odd thing seemed that maybe it was moving slowly or standing still until my eyes flicked to it, and it shot off straight over me. I do not know if it was watching me or was it just moving over when it saw me and decided to take off. I was kinda hidden by some steel playground equipment. I have seen strange things in the sky before, but nothing even remotely close to this. I know what satellites look like. I know what the ISS space station looks like. I know what comets and asteroids and meteors look like. I own a 6 inches Newtonian reflector telescope. I have been to military airshows before. I know what planes and helicopters and blimps are capable of. Although I have never seen swamp gas ignite, I am pretty sure this was not that either. I saw what I saw. As to who was driving, that remains to be seen. I have another sighting posted on here where I saw 3 black V triangles in the same schoolyard, which happened 11 years ago. I would like to add that looking back, I think the sightings are connected, and from pictures I have seen I think they are the same type of craft that was over Phoenix, Arizona in 1996, the same year. But in my case they were much higher and therefore smaller. And there were 3 of them. Just my speculation, but it seems to me as if these lights boxes can move together like an F-16 wings retract and expand for higher speeds, but not for the same reasons. They move from V to more wide-mouthed U and boomerang shapes, and now I think they can form any shape, maybe even come apart and move freely and then rejoin at different angles. Keep looking up.
Occurred, the 17th of August 2010, 19 hours 50 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Plymouth, IN, USA. Shape, unknown. Duration, 3 minutes. Know of observers. 1 characteristics, lights on object, bright blue lights hovering over town. It was Sunday evening around 7:50 Eastern Daylight Saving Time. I was traveling east on Highway 30 from Valparaiso heading toward Plymouth when about a mile out of town I saw a faint blue light with my peripheral vision low over the skyline. As I got closer to town, the blue light became more prevalent. I have my pilot's license and used to fly, so I know that blue lights are not used on planes. It had an odd flight path which seemed to go straight up, straight down, then took a horizontal path over and remained stationary. As I got into town, I could see not 1 but 2 blue lights. It was hovering low over the Walmart Plaza, maybe less than 500 feet. I was difficult to say the altitude, just that I could the aircraft through the driver's side seat without having to stick my head out the window to see it. I literally drove past it on 30, on my left-hand side. I could not see the shape of the aircraft, UFO, just 2 big, very bright and intense blue lights spaced across from another. They seemed to be facing downward, shining the lights toward the ground. I rolled down my window to see if I could hear an engine or rotors, but it made no noise. There is an airport nearby, located on the northeast side of town, but it was stationary, so that ruled out any airplanes. Helicopters can be heard a mile away and this was silent, not to mention the strange blue lights on the UFO. I saw no other lights or markings. It seemed too big to be some kind of hoax like a model. I could tell it had some size to it, and it was bigger than the Cessnas I used to fly. It stayed there for at least a minute or two in duration. I know I couldn't have been the only one that saw it. It made no attempt to conceal itself. You couldn't miss those bright blue lights. I continued on my way out of town east on 30 until the aircraft become out of sight. I've read similar sighting that was reported just a week prior in Plymouth, as well as other sightings in Fort Wayne and Indianapolis. Multiple sightings by people in different towns help validate what I saw and makes me wonder, what exactly did I see?
Occurred, the 14th of July 2012, 21 hours 50 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Culver, IN, USA. Shape, circle. Duration, approximately 40 minutes. Know of observers, 8 round orange light. Object moved in line, stopped and stayed in place, seemed to quiver, then left abruptly. Repeated this several times. 3 of us were on a pier by a large lake watching fireworks that were at one end of the lake to the west. It was very dark out, about 9:50 p.m., and we noticed a perfectly round, very orange light or object moving slowly and steadily high above the tree line at the southeast side of the lake. The object appeared to stop, then it quivered a little, then went quickly in a direction somewhat up and away from where we were watching. Several minutes later, it, or another one, appeared again in virtually the same area, moved along what seemed to be a similar path as the other one, stopped, then went directly east rather than in a more upward trajectory as the first one did. We saw 3 more of these do virtually the same thing, all several minutes apart. 5 friends came by boat after watching the fireworks from the water, and they asked if we had seen that odd round orange object. They had seen it from across the lake. One of us is in aviation and said that it was definitely not an airplane. Nor was it a flare. Additionally, some of the people who had been in the boat were out looking at the stars about a half hour after we had gone in and reported seeing the object higher in the night sky on the other side of the lake from where we all had originally seen it. It looked just like a round tail light of an older truck, only it was the same color as an orange popsicle.